Having sketched the drawing of the bird and dampened the paper, I add drops of saraland blue with a brush with long hairs. Then I use Potter's pink pigment. I prepare my liquid colours in advance to facilitate the projections, and I avoid projecting on the bird. So here I add Van Dyke brown, and then I tilt the paper in order to have good colour gradients on my painting. I increase the contrast bit by bit. I project brown once more and Potter's pink, as well to darken the picture. Then I change brushes. I'm still using the same type of brush, but the handle is shorter. To increase the contrast, I project Payne's grey, and then I start to trace the branch on which the bird rests with a synthetic brush full of brown paint. The colour is quite liquid. You'll notice the colour distributes easily on the paper. I change brushes. Now I will use a tracer to draw the thin branches. It's a narrow brush with long synthetic hairs, which enables a graphic touch and an almost clean stroke. I start painting the lighter branches, and I increase the contrast during the water cycle to give depth to my painting. So now I'm going to lift my watercolours, as I think that the dark mass on the bottom right of the painting is too strong. I open up the whites with my synthetic brush, and I'm obliged to come back several times to the same stroke, each time cleaning my brush so that the pigment doesn't engulf my lighter paint strokes. Now I start to tackle the bird using a synthetic brush full of the same colours as the background. To create harmony in my painting, I use the same colours for the background and to paint the bird. I draw the bird's coat with graphic strokes, starting by applying the Potter's pink and saraland blue. I will progressively increase the contrast. Once the paper is dry, I come back to the bird. I start by painting the beak. I dampen the corresponding areas and I apply the grey. I draw the colour into the damp area with the synthetic brush. Identically, I dampen the inside of the eye and I place the grey in the interior of the outline, letting the colour burst forth and being careful to leave white for the reflection. I choose a narrow-tipped synthetic brush, but with a good water reserve in the belly to avoid having to recharge the brush all the time. I use the same colours as the background. Sometimes I dampen the paper to place my colour, and sometimes I work dry to mark details. That is to say, my brush is loaded with colour, but my paper is dry. It is easier to draw the details with a brush loaded with little water. I find that there isn't enough contrast in the beak, so I add some more grey. With watercolours, we always work from the darkest to the lightest colours, so I superimpose little by little to progressively darken my painting. To make my bird stand out, I use negative painting techniques. That is to say, I paint the background to make the shape stand out. To do this, I dampen the background to place my colour, and so the bird is put to his best. To help the colour to spread as I wish, I pull it with my brush into the damp area. I have decided to balance the massive contrasts coloured on this side of the painting to counterbalance the strong contrasts down on the bottom right of my painting. I once again use negative painting techniques. I deposit the colour on the background and I let the colours spread just to the edge of the shape. I once again project drops of pink and brown paint on the left-hand side of the painting to give more texture as a whole. I darken the colours on the bird's head as well as the finer details in order that this becomes the focal point of this painting. I have arrived at the end of my painting. Here is the final result. Thank you for your attention.